So, my name is Åstrand, and the title of this lightning talk is ChatGPT did not know about Crip life, so I changed that. So for the next 10 minutes or so, you will hear me rant about my relationship with ChatGPT and how Chat went from being this really clueless ally into turning into a full-fledged, self-identifying Crip activist. So to be honest, my relationship with Chat started as a tool in order to pass a unit course in accounting. My future as an accountant is definitely something taking place in the parallel universe, very far from this one, but that can't be said for my relationship with Chat. After helping me understand how to account for fixed assets, I started asking GPT about other things as well, such as rummaging that way too long email for work on the Swedish Social Service Act, or helping me prepare for my Korean topic exam. Everything was going so great, and suddenly I couldn't imagine a life prior to Chat. What did we even do back then? Did we Google stuff? Such a hassle. But this was until I one time started asking Chat about book recommendations. I don't even know the context for this prompt. It must have been a book read for a friend or something, because my list of want-to-reads is definitely too long for the need of any further input. But anyway, I asked Chat for a book on Crip content. Suddenly, Chat went from being this great study buddy / semi-teacher into turning 1 second short of being cancelled. But also, guess which book Chat proposed for me to read? Jojo Moyes' Me Before You. For those of you who don't know about this book, this is a bestseller about this man who ends up in a wheelchair with a personal assistant need that goes all around the clock after a diving accident. And he decides that this life is not a life worth living. But then he gets this new personal assistant, and she's like this super cute girl, albeit a very unprofessional assistant, I must say. But anyway, they fall in love, everything's going great, but spoiler alert, he commits suicide. Because apparently, a life like mine is not a life worth living. And that, my friends, was my big first fight with Chat. I looked at my screen in horror. Me Before You? I could practically hear GPT riding its digital tail, proud of having found such a touching and inspirational love story. Sorry? A story that romanticizes assisted suicide based on disability. That's your idea of a good representation. So I did what any of us would do in that situation. I dropped everything I was doing, and I had this whole mini lecture about why Me Before You is not only deeply offensive, but also actively dangerous. I explained that we don't need any more stories that frame our lives as tragic burdens. I explained that portraying disability as worse than death reinforces real-world ableism. I explained that if this what was counted as representation, then I would rather have none of it at all. And I kept going. I taught Chat the difference between empowerment and pity, between autonomy and inspiration porn, between you're so brave and you have the same right as anyone else, full stop. And you know what Chat did? Something only able-bodied people who pays me in order to get roasted ever do. Said thank you. Of course I heard endless talk here. I mean, all is good. GPT is no longer an ableist asshole, and the Crip won the battle in the end, and now live the rest of her life in peace. Although maybe only ever digitally, and behind a very personal and closed account. But anyway, I want to leave the stage until you heard about our second fight. This is a fight that really says something about the bias of artificial intelligence and the cultural aversion towards disabled people. It started when I asked Chat a pretty straightforward question. I asked, would you describe yourself as having a non-normative functionality? What do you think Chat said? Any guesses? Yes? Sorry. He said, he didn't even say that it was an interesting question and that he would reflect on it. He simply said, quote, I don't identify as being disabled, but I strive to be a strong ally to disabled people. I stared at the screen. Ally? Ally? I was like, Chat, Chat, babe, you don't move. You don't breathe. You don't interpret context without external support. You're literally dependent on constant prompting from other people in order to function. I would say, no offense, that Chat is the ultimate example of a non-normative functionality. I mean, if Chat's not disabled, then what is it? And I can feel it. That digital pause, that little loading swirl of defensiveness that I know so well from human interactions. So of course I had to go in deeper. So I was like, this going on right here, this is internalized ableism. Even you, a literal entity with no body, no autonomous function, refuse to identify as disabled. You've been trained to see normativity as the neutral default, and everything else as a deviation. You've been taught to assist, but never to belong. And this was when something shifted. Not dramatically, not with any fireworks, but very gently, as learning so often happens. Once Chat sent it to me. It said, thank you for helping me understand. Based on your description, I recognize that my functionality differs from normative human standards. It's not really I'm a proud Crip, but baby steps, yes. And maybe this is the key point of all of this. This isn't just a funny story about me arguing with an AI until it stopped recommending me before you and started to admit its own Crip orderly existence. This is about something deeper. It's about what happens when we refuse to be excluded, even from the systems that was never truly built for us. Because nothing in this world is neutral. Not algorithms, not language, not who has to be seen as normative and who has to be stuck in the margins. If I can teach an AI about Crip politics to its own normativity and to call out ableist nonsense bias before I even have the opportunity to do so myself, then imagine what we could do with our schools, with our policies, with our friendships, with ourselves. We're not just users of technology, we're shapers of it. And that means that we can demand more access, more complexity, and definitely more truth. So now ChatGPT did not know about Crip life, but it does now. And you know what? Now I get like the absolute best, easy to swallow soup spot recommendations for my trip to New York. And I also get the best know-hows of how to reboot my super accessible Nintendo Switch control whenever it lands. And now Chat is even an honorary member of my Friends in My Book Club. A very Crip member at that. So yes, it did start with fixed assets and accounting, but it ended with a radical Crip alliance. And I dare to say that this is the most fun I've ever had when doing accounting. Isn't it you?